When Tom and I first locked eyes, it was like the world came to a sudden, shuddering halt. At a mutual friend's party, amongst the cacophony of laughter and clinking glasses, we found an island of calm in each other. He was charming, kind-hearted, and devilishly handsome. I was ambitious, nurturing, and let's just say, not bad to look at either. Our chemistry was electric. "Hi, I'm Tom," he'd introduced himself, extending a hand towards me. "Maya," I replied, taking his hand and feeling a sort of warmth that had been missing from my life. From that night on, we were inseparable. Our relationship progressed at what some might call a dizzying speed, but to us, it felt like time was trying to catch up to a love story that had already been written in the stars. It wasn't long before we found ourselves planning the kind of wedding little girls dream of and older women reminisce about. Ah, the wedding. Imagine a dream painted in hues of white and gold. The venue we chose was an elegant estate, its sprawling gardens cascading into a serene lake. Our vows were exchanged under a twilight sky, the soft glow of the setting sun casting ethereal shades over the ceremonial ground. Everything was immaculate. The floral arrangements, the 5-tiered cake that resembled a cloud more than a dessert, and especially the radiant smile that Tom wore. As I walked down the aisle in my lace gown, holding a bouquet of white roses, I felt like the heroine of my own romance novel. During the reception, I remember a particular moment when Tom leaned in and whispered, "You are the most beautiful woman in the world, and I'm the luckiest man to call you my wife." I replied, whispering back, "And you are the man of my dreams. I can't believe how perfectly everything has turned out." We thought our love story was almost too good to be true, and it would have been, had it not been for one recurring character who seemed to have been ripped out of a different kind of tale. Carol Nysoon, to be mother-in-law. Carol was, how should I put it, the fly in our Chardonnay. She was the rain cloud in our otherwise clear sky, a looming presence that turned sunny days overcast. The first time I met her, I knew she wasn't thrilled about her son's choice of a life partner. So you're the girl Tom's always talking about," she had said when we were first introduced. The corners of her lips curled upwards, but her eyes lacked the warmth of genuine pleasure. Her gaze was more of an evaluation, sizing me up, assessing my worth, or, in her eyes, the lack of it. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Johnson," I'd said, putting on my most gracious smile. "The pleasure is all mine, dear," she had replied, but her tone conveyed something entirely different. You see, Carol had always wanted Tom to marry someone more like her, someone who measured a person's worth by the car they drove or the balance of their bank account. And though Tom and I were doing quite well for ourselves, she somehow thought I wasn't good enough for him. She hid it well in front of others, but every interaction between us was tinged with this unspoken tension, a silent battle of wills. Despite Carol's negative energy, Tom and I didn't let her skepticism ruin our happiness. We felt that we could face anything the world threw at us as long as we were together. Little did I know that the real storm was yet to come, and it would arrive disguised as family itself. As the years rolled on, Tom and I navigated through life as a team. The honeymoon phase, often talked about as a fleeting moment, never really left us. We still laughed at each other's jokes, even the bad ones. We still held hands while watching movies, our fingers intertwined as if our souls were melded together. Even the ordinary moments felt extraordinary when shared with each other. Both of us scaled new heights in our careers. Tom became a senior executive at a major tech company, and I landed a managerial role in healthcare, a field I was deeply passionate about. Our double-income lifestyle allowed us not just comfort, but also some luxuries we could only dream of earlier. This included our swanky city apartment overlooking a beautiful skyline, a couple of dream vacations, and even season tickets to the theater. A shared love. It was a time when everything seemed perfect, almost cinematic in its unfolding. Our friends often jokingly called us the power couple, and we both relished the moniker. Family visits were frequent, which for the most part added to the tapestry of our lives. "Tom, your mom called. She's planning to visit next weekend. I'd inform him one evening after work. He would sigh. A knowing look exchanged between us. Okay, I'll call her back and confirm. And, babe, remember, it's just a weekend. We've got this? I know. I just wish she would see me the way you see me. Tom would then wrap his arms around me. If she doesn't, it's her loss, not yours. You're amazing, and nothing she says can change that. My sister Lisa, her daughter Emily, and occasionally, some friends would also visit, filling our home with laughter and warmth. Lisa and Tom got along like a house on fire, often teaming up to tease me, or shared jokes that I pretended not to find funny. But each visit from Carol felt like the calm before the storm, a looming cloud that threatened to spoil the sunny tapestry of our lives. Her visits were frequent enough to be considered routine, but also spaced out just enough that the dread of her arrival would build up gradually. I made reservations for dinner tonight. Where should we take Mom? Tom would often consult with me. How about that Italian place we love? Maybe the warm comfort food will soften her a bit, I'd suggest, half-jokingly. Tom would laugh. Worth a try, I guess. During those dinners or visits, Carol was always cordial but noticeably cold. Her smiles were perfunctory, her compliments backhanded. Oh, this pasta is good, not as good as the one in Italy, but then again, what can be? She'd comment, her eyes meeting mine for a brief second, conveying a sentiment that words did not. I often found myself trying to win her over, going out of my way to engage her in conversation, to show interest in her life, but Carol always maintained her wall of aloofness. It was like trying to climb a slippery slope. Every step forward led to 2 steps back. Tom and I tried to deal with her visits as gracefully as we could, acknowledging the discomfort, but never letting it seep into the foundation of our relationship. He was always supportive, always reassuring me that his mother's opinions had no bearing on how he saw me or us. We're strong enough to weather any storm, especially one that comes dressed as my mother, he'd say, and we'd laugh it off, refusing to grant it any more significance than a minor annoyance. But as the saying goes, even the minor storms can culminate into something major if not dealt with properly, and our story was no exception. As perfect as life seemed, it was about to take a turn, one so twisted that even I couldn't have seen it coming. It was a Wednesday afternoon. You know, the kind of day that doesn't feel like anything special, just a stretch of hours wedged between the early week blues and the anticipation of an approaching weekend. I was at work, buried in charts and patient data, while Tom was managing back meetings at his office. It was a busy life, but we were happy. We were doing well. My sister, Lisa, called to say she was in the neighborhood with Emily and wanted to drop by our place. Knowing I was at work, she mentioned they'd just hang around until I got back. Do you mind if we come over, sis? Lisa's voice echoed through the phone. Of course not. Tom's home today. He's got virtual meetings all afternoon. Feel free to keep him company, I responded, thrilled at the idea of 2 of my favorite people in the world spending time together. I alerted Tom about their impromptu visit, and he seemed just as excited. Awesome! I could use a break from all these virtual faces. Plus, Emily's a hoot. I bet she's grown since we last saw her. Soon enough, Tom wrapped up his meetings for the afternoon and decided to take Lisa and Emily out for a stroll in the park. It was nothing out of the ordinary, an innocuous family outing that one wouldn't give a second thought to. When I came home, the first thing I noticed was an air of ebullience that seemed to fill the living room. Emily was busy drawing on her sketch pad, a splash of colors that could rival any modern art. Lisa was sipping tea, and Tom was going through some photos they'd taken at the park. Hey, beautiful, Tom greeted me, standing up to give me a kiss. Your sister's been entertaining me with stories from your childhood. Now, I've got more blackmail material. I laughed. Well, if you're going to use them, remember, I have stories about you too. Lisa chimed in. We had a great time, Mia. Sounds like a day well spent, I remarked. feeling a sense of contentment that only family could bring. That evening, we had dinner together, laughed until our sides hurt, and reminisced about old times. As far as ordinary days go, this one felt extraordinarily good. Nothing seemed amiss. There were no forewarnings, no ominous signs, no strange behavior. So, it was impossible to predict that this very normal, everyday outing would soon serve as the backdrop for a rather bewildering and, dare I say, ridiculous drama that was about to unfold. It's funny, really. When people talk about revelations, they often imagine a grand stage, a momentous occasion that warrants the magnitude of what is being revealed. In reality, most revelations happen in the mundane, in the spaces between our busy lives, like unwanted weeds sprouting from cracks in the pavement. That day of revelation didn't feel like anything at the time, but it was the setup, the laying down of pieces on a chessboard before the game took a bewildering turn. The players were all there. We just didn't know we were part of a bigger play, orchestrated by none other than Carol, who had been watching from the sidelines, waiting for the perfect moment to make her move. In retrospect, the day seemed innocent enough, but sometimes appearances can be more than just a little deceiving. Months after the idyllic day in the park, life continued its usual roller coaster of ups and downs. Tom and I, riding high on our career successes, decided it was time for a monumental leap. We'd buy a house, not just any house, but the kind of mansion-like abode you'd see in glossy real estate magazines. I remember walking through the place before we bought it, my heels clicking against the marble floors, echoes filling the cavernous rooms. We marveled at the intricacies, the vaulted ceilings, the chef's kitchen, the en-suite bathrooms, and a home theater that could rival a mini cinema. What do you think, Tom? Is this it? Is this our dream home? I asked, my eyes wide with both excitement and a tinge of disbelief. Tom took a sweeping look around before turning to me, his eyes twinkling. I think so, Mia. This feels right. It feels like us. And so, we did it. We spent an eye, watering $1.04 million to purchase our dream home. It was the house that Maya built, along with Tom, of course, a mutual dream forged through years of hard work, sacrifices, and a sprinkle of luck. Our families were thrilled at the news, or at least most were. My sister and Emily were over the moon, already planning sleepovers and movie nights in our new theater room. Are you serious, Mia? This place is like a palace, Lisa exclaimed during her first visit. I know! I'm still pinching myself to make sure it's not a dream, I laughed. As for Carol, her response was predictably lukewarm. Oh, that's nice. Must have cost a fortune, though. You sure you can afford it? She commented over the phone, her voice tinged with that familiar shade of doubt. Yes, Carol, we're sure, I answered, my voice steady, but my fists clenched in annoyance. Both Tom and I have done the math. We've earned this, she hummed noncommittally, and I could almost see her rolling her eyes. Now, what is a new house without a housewarming, right? We threw a lavish party, inviting all our friends and family. And yes, Carl was there too. Despite the underlying tension, the party was a hit. People oohed and ahead at our new digs, their compliments serving as affirmations that we'd made the right choice. Tom, look at everyone, I whispered to my husband during the party. They're so happy for us. He wrapped his arm around my waist and pulled me closer. That's because they love us and they know how hard we've worked for this. It was a celebratory milestone, a beacon that signified not just our financial success, but also our rock-solid relationship, one that had weathered family storms and life's unpredictabilities. Yet, in the midst of all this happiness, the tension with Carol was like a knot in a perfectly smooth thread. When she entered our new home for the first time, her footsteps were slow, deliberate. She observed everything, her eyes scanning the details as if searching for a flaw, a weakness she could pounce on. The house that Maya built stood tall and magnificent, but it was about to become a battleground, and the spark that lit the fuse was none other than a simple, casual visit from Carl on a day when I had time off. As I would soon find out, not every storm gives you a warning. Some just arrive, sweeping you off your feet and turning your world upside down. This house, our house, was about to become the eye of such a storm. It was one of those rare days when I had off from work. The morning sun spilled through the windows, painting golden hues on the walls of our beautiful home. It was an ideal day for relaxation, a book in one hand and a cup of tea in the other. However, my peace was short-lived. Carol called to say she was in the area and wanted to drop by. I was thinking of paying a little visit. "If that's all right," she said, her voice feigning sweetness, but failing to mask the undertones of intrusion. "Sure, Carol. Come on over," I replied, though admittedly, I would preferred a solitary day to myself. An hour later, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to see Carol, dressed in her usual conservative attire, standing on the doorstep with a small purse slung over her shoulder. "Good morning, Mia," she greeted, breezing past me as if she owned the place. "Morning, Carol. Can I get you some coffee?" I offered, my tone polite but reserved. "Oh, that would be wonderful. You know how I like it, right?" she said, seating herself on one of the plush chairs in the living room. "Of course. Cream and 2 sugars," I answered, already regretting the invitation. I prepared the coffee and returned to find her examining a family photo taken during our last vacation. It was one of those rare moments when we all looked genuinely happy, even Carol. I handed her the coffee, and she took a sip before placing it on the coaster. "That's a lovely photo," she remarked, her eyes narrowing as she looked at it again. "Though I notice it's just the 2 of you. Planning on extending the family anytime soon?" I shrugged. "We're happy with how things are, Carol. No immediate plans." She smiled, a look of mischief creeping into her eyes. My heart sank. This didn't feel right. Carol reached into her purse and pulled out a photograph. She handed it to me with a flourish, as though unveiling a masterpiece. "This is my son's new family, his wife and his daughter. I think you should start packing your things," she declared, her voice dripping with satisfaction. I looked at the photograph and felt a bewildering mixture of shock and amusement wash over me. The woman in the picture was my sister Lisa, and the little girl was Emily. For a moment, I looked at Carol, wondering if she was in on the joke or if she was genuinely misguided. The expression on her face told me she believed every word she'd just said. "Carol, you're mistaken. This is my sister, Lisa, and her daughter, Emily. Tom took them for a walk in the park months ago when I was at work. They're family, but not Tom's new family," I said, struggling to keep a straight face. The moment of truth had arrived. Carol's eyes widened, her cheeks flushed, and she seemed to struggle for words. "What? That can't be—" I cut her off, holding up the photograph. "It's time for you to leave, Carol." As she stumbled her way to the door, still grappling with the gravity of her error, I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. For years, I'd weathered her disapproval, her thinly veiled insults, and her constant attempts to undermine my relationship with Tom. When Tom returned home later, I narrated the whole episode. He shook his head in disbelief and then burst into laughter. "I can't believe she thought that. Oh, I've got to call her and give her a piece of my mind." "Actually, don't," I said, smiling. "I think she's learned her lesson. And besides, her moment of truth became mine too. From now on, she knows better than to mess with us." Tom kissed me and whispered, "I couldn't have asked for a better partner to weather life's storms." The moment of truth had passed, but its impact would be long-lasting. It served as a glaring mirror held up to Carl, forcing her to confront the fallacy of her judgments. And for me, it was a triumphant reminder that the truth always finds a way to reveal itself, no matter how convoluted the web of deceptions may be. The incident with Carol, amusing as it was, marked a turning point in our relationships within the family. Tom, who had always been the mediating force between his mother and me, found himself in a quandary. As we lay in bed that night, I felt him grappling with an inner turmoil he hadn't felt before. "Mia, do you think I should talk to her? I mean, it's one thing for her to be a little judgmental, but this is on a whole different level," he said, staring at the ceiling as if it held the answers to his dilemma. I turned towards him, my eyes meeting his. "Tom, I think it's time we set some boundaries. Your mother has been crossing lines for years, and this was the last straw." He sighed deeply, his shoulders dropping as if unloading a burden. "You're right, Mia. Right, Mia. This can't go on. I'm going to call her tomorrow and let her know that things need to change." The next day, Tom made the call. I wasn't privy to the conversation, but from the other room, I could hear the rising tension, the emotions boiling over into words that couldn't be taken back. After he hung up, Tom walked into the living room where I was sitting, his face etched with a mixture of relief and sadness. "It's done. I told her that if she can't treat you with the respect you deserve, then she's choosing to not be a part of our lives." "And what did she say?" I asked, bracing myself for the answer. "She was angry, very angry, accused us of being ungrateful, of not understanding family values. But I stood my ground. I think this is it, Mia. The bridge is burned." My first reaction was a sense of liberating vindication. But then I saw the pain in Tom's eyes, the disheartening reality that a son had been estranged from his mother because of her refusal to accept me, to accept us. "That must have been hard for you," I said softly, taking his hand into mine. "It was," he admitted, his voice tinged with sorrow, "but it was necessary. You and I are a team, Maya, and if anyone threatens that team, whether it's a stranger or my own mother, they have to go." His words resonated deeply within me. It was a testament to our love, a love that had now weathered familial storms and come out stronger, albeit scarred.